Welcome back to the It's Too Easy podcast. Ready for week 6 of the NFL season. Been off to a hot start, hitting about a 70% clip between both of us. Um, Being on opposite sides for quite a few games each week, but ready for another good slate this week. Getting started with Thursday Night Football, Giants and the Eagles. Jake, what are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah. I think the Eagles are 7.5 point favorites in that game. After his tough loss to the Broncos, I do expect them to bounce back. They only handed the ball off to Saquon 6 times for 30 yards. Now, granted, he did have like a 50-yard touchdown catch where he beat the linebacker, but they just didn't utilize him enough, and I expect them to get back to running the football with Saquon. Get back to what won them the Super Bowl last year. Obviously, with the new offensive coordinator this year, it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster for them, I think, to kind of get back to their form of last year with Kellen Moore calling plays. So I'm going to go ahead and buy the Eagles down to 4.5. In division game in New York, I think it's going to be a little bit of a tougher game, but I just don't really see a way that New York comes out on top. And as long as the Eagles run the ball a little bit this game, I think they'll be okay to cover that 4.5.
I am kind of torn on this game, leaning on buying the Giants up to 10.5, just because the Eagles have looked buns all year. It would be easier to say I'm confident in that if Malik Neighbors is healthy, but he's not. But the Eagles have done a really good job at not turning the ball over this year, and their defense has hung in there for the most part in games. So um, it's an interesting one. I feel like they're kind of due for turnovers, and the front four of the Giants is pretty good, and the Eagles O line's been a little beat up. So I think I am going to take the Giants at plus 10.5. Also interested in the over under that's at 40.5. I'm thinking that it's going to go over. So take that as you will.
Yeah, right on. Second game, we got the Cowboys and the Panthers. Panthers had a beautiful comeback win against the Dolphins last week, and the Cowboys blew out the Jets. Um, I just really like the way the Cowboys are playing offensively. They're, I think, ranked first in the league. We talked about that a little bit last week. I just don't see Dak slowing down. I think Javante was a brilliant pickup for them. Only paid him $3 million for this year, and I think the dude's going to be due to get paid next year. But he's definitely filled a large void for the Cowboys, and their O line somehow has managed to stay upright considering they've had so many injuries. Their defense the last couple weeks has looked so much better. So I'm going to stick with the Cowboys minus 2.5 here. I see them getting up early. And then I don't know if the Panthers are going to kind of be able to pull off the same comeback that they were against the Dolphins. Obviously, the Dolphins are a little bit different team than the Cowboys. And just with the way the Cowboys defense has been playing over the last couple of weeks, I trust them a little bit more. So I'm going to take the Cowboys minus 2.5 here on the road against the Panthers.
Yeah, if you asked me this game last week, I would have been on Panthers plus 4. But after seeing what we did, Cowboys were up 30-6 at one point in New York, with 4 brand new linemen starting last week, and they gave up 0 sacks and I think 3 QB pressures all game. So they looked very good. Expect that to continue against a Panthers defense that's kind of mid to lower tier, if anything. And Bryce Young's been balling. Chuba's out, but Rico Dowdle filled in the role and went for 206 on the ground last week, which was crazy. Now he's got a revenge game against the Cowboys, who wouldn't pay him $5 million to stay. And so I don't know how well he'll do. You'd imagine he does well because he's going to be able to run the ball. But Dak's been balling. Pickens has been a stud. Fergie's been going crazy, and the line, like you said, has been doing well. Javante has been. I think he's third in the league right now in rushing yards, and I think he's
Yeah.
got 5 or 6 touchdowns as well. So he's been surprisingly very solid for them. So I'm just going to stick with the Cowboys minus 3.
Yeah, right on. Then we got the Broncos and the Jets. That game's happening in London this weekend. Super early game, so not really sure how the jet lag and all that's going to affect teams. I know they've been over there now for a couple days. So hopefully they'll be able to get over that before this game. Broncos obviously had a monumental win last week against the Eagles. Finally able to hand them a loss. I feel like that's just a huge confidence booster for this Broncos team. Excuse me. Um, and I feel like that's a kind of win that really kind of propels you into like 4 or 5 game win streak. So I actually expect the Broncos to probably, and especially with their schedule here the next few weeks, I expect them to win 3 or 4 in a row. So nothing different with this game. I expect them to go out there and take care of business here against the Jets. It is all going to matter really on how much Fields is able to be contained in the pocket. Um, if he has to get rid of the ball, I just don't see them performing too well just because the Broncos defense is so good and they're really hitting their stride as well. So yeah, I'm gonna buy it down to 6.5 and take the Broncos in this game. I just think that after last week, they're gonna have so much momentum. Sean Payton, like we talked about earlier, this year is starting to narrow in on the playbook a little bit. His record in October is unbelievable, so I expect them to be able to kind of kick things off here with the Jets and start a little win streak for them.
Yeah, I was originally leaning on Jets again just because I want to see them get their first win under Aaron Glenn. But I do think the Broncos are going to get it done. I think there's going to be more defensive battle. The way that uh, the Jets move the football is pretty much through running the football or getting it to Garrett Wilson. And I don't think Garrett's going to be that effective with Pat Surtain locking him up. And so that limits your receivers to whoever's next best, whether that's Lazard or throwing it check down out the backfield to Brees Hall. I think it'd be a little bit different story if they had Braylon Allen healthy still, but he's on the IR. So I do think that's going to limit them offensively. They'll probably be under 2 to 3 scores, I'd imagine. And so the Broncos should be able to put up more than that to get the win. I like buying it down to 4. I do think they'll also cover the 7, though.
Yeah, right on. I think it's notable to talk about how, like, the last 5 years or so, even though the Jets have always been pretty bad, their defense has usually been something that they can write home about. This year it's just not the same. Their defense is kind of in shambles this year. I feel like Sauce Gardner, his rookie year is probably going to be his best year because it feels like the past 2 seasons he's kind of just been on a downward trajectory, even though they paid him a crap load of money. Um, so I'm kind of interested to see how that Jets defense holds up against this Broncos offense because Broncos offense has been really slow starters. So if they can manage to kind of hold them up in the first few quarters, and get a lead, then this will be a much more interesting game. But I do think with the big win last week, the Broncos will be able to cover that 6.5.
And Evan
Um,
Ingram's getting going, too. And
yeah,
after Fergie's been pretty solid and had another good week, I could see him starting to step in now that he's healthier. Bo's getting that connection with him. And then the Jets defense has kind of been lackluster, like you said.
yeah, for sure. And then we got the Browns and the Steelers. Browns just traded away Flacco to the Bengals, and Dylan Gabriel actually had a pretty solid game for his first week in the NFL. Um, didn't make a whole lot of mistakes, but couldn't lead the team to a win. So it was a pretty tough loss, especially being his first week and him playing so well and not being able to get the win was tough. I think it's going to be a little bit of a different story this week against the Steelers. I was expecting him to throw an interception last week, but he ended up not and keep taking care of the ball, which is pretty surprising. Yeah, I think the Steelers' defense under Tomlin's going to be able to give them fits. And with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, I feel like he's going to manage a way to get past this Browns defense. So I'm going to stick with the Steelers -2.5 in this game. They've looked really good so far, and their division's kind of lost with the way the Bengals have looked without Burrow, and with the Ravens being 1-4 without Lamar. I think it kind of leaves the door wide open for the Steelers to go and take the division in the next few weeks, and I think a big win here against the Browns would definitely put them right on track to win the division. So I'm going to stick with the Steelers -2.5.
Yeah, we talked about this with the Drake May matchup against the Steelers a couple weeks ago. Tomlin always defeats young quarterbacks. I think he's only lost 2 in his career, might be up to 3 at this point, but he's got 20 plus wins. So the Steelers should find a way to get it done. The Browns defense is very good, and Myles Garrett could easily, in one hit, kill Aaron Rodgers, which would be like, all right, who's up next for the Steelers? Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And that would ruin their entire offensive game. So it'll be interesting to see how well the offensive line can hold up for the Steelers. I am expecting more of a low scoring game in this one for a defense that should be able to get stops and turnovers for the Steelers against a young quarterback. And then a very good defensive team in the Browns. Even though Aaron doesn't turn the ball over much, even if they got one turnover, they could keep it close and low scoring. So I would lean on buying it up to the Browns, but I'm just going to stick with what you took, and that's going to be the Steelers -2.5.
Right on. And then we got the Chargers and the Dolphins. This game actually intrigues me a little bit just because the Chargers have lost the last 2 weeks and they've lost a lot of players to injury so far this year with Khalil Mack being down, and they've now lost both their running backs. So I think Hassan Haskins is going to become running back one, and then they just called up Kamani Vidal to the 53 man roster. Um, it's just really intriguing because I don't really know what to expect from this Chargers team anymore. After those first 3 weeks, it was like, oh man, they could be a Super Bowl contender, and now with missing a lot of big key players in this lineup, and especially the offensive line's really beat up as well. It's kind of tough to tell where they're going to be at. But on the other hand, you got the Dolphins who are going to be without Tyreek, and although um, they were able to sign Darren Waller, and he's been performing really well the last couple weeks. I just expect the Chargers defense to still be able to give Tua fits. They rush the quarterback pretty well, and I think with this new signing that they just had to kind of fill the void of Khalil Mack, it'll give Bud Dupree some help and a breather on every other few plays, because I think the Chargers defense is just lacking some depth right now with the injuries as well. So I'm going to stick with the Chargers minus 2.5. It does scare me a little bit just because Tua actually has been playing really well the last couple weeks. So you never know if the Dolphins' offense is just going to be able to win in a shootout. But I got a lot of trust in Justin Herbert. I love Dicker the kicker. I think that they got a lot going for them, and they really need to get back on track in order to keep themselves alive in this division, because it's just one of those games you need to win, because this division can eat you up with the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. And, although they have the one win against the Chiefs already, they still got to play the Broncos twice. Broncos, they already beat the Broncos as well. And the Raiders, actually. So, yeah, I mean, they still got to play those 3 games. They still have a pretty tough schedule. They've been traveling a lot, so I think that has contributed to the losses along with the injuries. But yeah, I mean, obviously traveling again to Miami, I think it's going to be a tough game and a close game, but I just see the Chargers winning by at least a field goal. So I'm going to take them minus 2.5.
I think you could take +4 on either side of this game and probably win your bet.
Yeah.
Like you said, love Dicker the kicker. That's probably my favorite play of the week, is Dicker to have over 1.5 field goals. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm guessing it's going to be a 23-20 game, so both kickers should get two. But yeah, I mean, I think the Chargers should come away with a win and a close one by probably 3 or less. Could come down to the wire. I just, without being able to run the ball with no Najee, no Amari, and even if you had a healthy line, Haskins is going to be okay, but they don't have a healthy line. They're without 3 starting linemen, including 2 All-Pros in that. So I don't know what they're going to be able to do. It's going to be a lot of quick passes, and so I expect Lad McConkey to get going again. It's kind of been a slower start to the season for him, so I think they'll get the ball off quick to him, and if not, quite a few checkdowns to either Kamani or Hassan. I expect Hassan to get more of the load just because he's more of a vet, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. The the way that A-Chain's able to get handled, I think, is going to tell if the Chargers are able to win this game or not. If A-Chain can get in open space and break some tackles, then the Dolphins should be able to outscore them, because Waller's been solid for them and Waddle's been pretty consistent, and A-Chain's just super fast. So interested to see how it goes. The Chargers really need a win, so I was going to take them money line in this game, but I also don't hate buying the Dolphins to +4.
Yeah, right on. I think you're right on there. I think +4 on either side is likely gonna be pretty strong in this game. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully the Chargers can kind of get back on track. Then we've got the Patriots and the Saints. Another pretty intriguing game. The Saints just got their first win against the Giants last week. Defense had a huge touchdown to kind of seal that game. Then the Patriots had a massive win against the Bills. I think it kind of was a coming out party for this Patriots team. Diggs had like 160 receiving yards on 8 or 9 catches. Pretty impressive. I just love the way Drake Mays looked, and they're kind of a sleeper on defense. I think their defense is actually one of the best in the NFL. Led by Christian Gonzalez. That dude's an absolute stud in the secondary. Go Ducks. Yeah, he's just so fun to watch. And their secondary has been so improved this year. It's been really cool to see kind of the Vrabel effect for that team this year. It just feels like they're getting all the pieces filled in. They got a lot of free agent signings, and I just think that team's kind of at a whole different point than they were a year ago today. So yeah, I'm gonna stick on the Patriots money line. If they win this game, they're up to 4-2. Saints obviously had that huge win, but I just don't see them doing it 2 in a row. I don't think Shaheed's going to be able to break an 87-yard touchdown against this Patriots secondary. So I think Drake May is straight up a baller. I think he's right now leaps ahead of Jackson Dart with the amount of experience he's had. And I think he's just going to be able to make plays against the Saints defense. So, yeah, I'll stick with the Patriots money line.
Yeah, I like the Patriots in this game a lot. Obviously, I had the Saints last week. I thought that was a good play at home. Everyone was high on the Giants just because of a win against the Chargers that kind of felt like it was coming with all the travel that they had been having, as well as the injuries. So I like the Patriots. I think they're going to cover the 3. I could see this being a blowout. Could also see it being a very close game if it ends up being a turnover battle like the last Bills game was with the Patriots. I think
Yeah.
those 4 fumbles in the first quarter. Don't expect too much of that, but Drake May and Rattler can definitely both turn the ball over. So if anything, I also love the play this week of under 45.5. I feel like one of these teams might put up 13 or less, probably the Saints in that. And I could see like a 34-9, in which case you're still going under. And that's with a high scoring Patriots game. So I like the under in this game, and I'm going to take the Patriots minus 2.5.
Yeah, right on. Then we shall move on to the Rams and the Ravens. Ravens obviously 1-4 start, and here they are going up against the Rams. Lamar didn't practice today, but he is questionable, I believe, for the game. Um, Either way, I think the Rams are 7.5 point favorites in this game. I'm going to buy it down to 6.5. I think they had a pretty tragic loss last week against the Niners, going for it on 4th and 1 there. I think that was probably one of the worst play calls in Sean McVay's career. Just one of those things that happens, and I expect him to get it fixed before this game. The Ravens, we obviously know, are super beat up. If Lamar doesn't play, this one could also be a blowout. But yeah, when Matt Stafford's slinging the ball like he has been these first 5 weeks, I just expect a lot from this Rams team. I think they got a pretty complete team, and I just don't see a way that the Ravens defense will be able to stop them because they aren't very deep, and they're missing 4 to 6 of their starters. So I think Matt Stafford's going to have his way. I think that Kyron's going to kind of be able to get it going in this game as well. So I'm looking for the Rams offense to really take over in this game. And I honestly love this pick at minus 6.5.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think the Rams are going to bounce back, probably bounce back big. I think Lamar's definitely a question mark for them. But their defense, either way, has been the struggling point. They're on track to be the worst defense of all time right now, giving up almost 38 a game. They've been horrid, and they're not getting any health back anytime soon. I do actually really like Stafford to throw a pick in this game, just to try and keep it a little closer, maybe a little more interesting. But I think the Ravens are going to get blown out in the end, and I like the minus 6 cover for sure. Uh, there was a weird game last week with the Niners. There was three players, running backs, that were bet for 97% or more bets were on their over. And that would be Saquon, who had 6 carries, James Cook, who only had 10 carries, and then Kyron Williams, who had 13, including the one at the end where he was stuffed, while he was averaging 5 the rest of the game. So it was very weird games. Hard for me to say that they were a little bit rigged there because the Eagles had a lead most of the time. The Rams were right there in it and running it effectively. And then the Bills were within a score the whole time. So weird that the 3 teams that run the ball the best were not running the football, to say the least. And I think that James Cook should get it going again this week, and the Bills Kyron should get it going this week, and the Rams will come away with a big win.
Yeah, that fumble on the 1 yard line was just tragic for Kyron last week. So hopefully he'll be able to get that fixed, and they'll be able to turn that around. So yeah,
and he still Rams. Had 2 touchdowns and 100 yards.
Yeah,
I think he just received for 70, and only ran for 65 at a 67 line. So weird one.
Pretty tough to lose the game on a fumble, and then on a 4th and 1, it's just like, damn.
Missed field goal, missed
McVay
PAT.
McVay couldn't call up a play on 4th and 1 to win the game. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's another thing. You throw it 44 times and run it 14. It's like, what do you do? And then you all know it's coming on 4th and 1. If you're going to do that all game, throw it with Stafford, who's got 400 already, to 2 of the best receivers in the league. But
yeah, and then instead you choose to run it right at Fred Warner. Like, yeah, smart. Okay, well, whatever.
Interesting.
Puka, though, obviously has been legacy so far this year. Stafford's getting him the rock. He looks great. Doesn't seem like they're missing Kupp all that much, which is really surprising. I was expecting they'd miss him more, but they've really filled his void really well with some of the other players. So yeah, let's see how the Rams do. Next, we got the Cardinals and the Colts. Not sure exactly where this line's at, but I'm taking the Colts -6.5 at home. They've been an absolute wagon this year so far. They beat the crap out of the Raiders last week. It was like 40-6 for a majority of the game, and it was just like one of those games where you're like, damn, this Colts team is for real. And I do really believe that. On the flip side, you got the Cardinals who screwed themselves to lose that game. They should have been up 3 scores with like 8 minutes left, and instead pick off Cam Ward, fumble the interception into the end zone, and the Titans managed to recover it for a touchdown. That was one of the wackiest plays I've ever seen in NFL history. I'm not sure we'll ever see that again. But yeah, I just don't know how the Cardinals managed to lose games like that. And I don't expect it to be much better here against the Colts. The Colts defense is honestly a freight train. They're crazy good. And Jonathan Taylor got it going last week. When Jonathan Taylor gets it going, Daniel Jones, you don't have to ask too much from him. And yeah, I just think they're going to be able to get him going early against this Cardinals team, who on the flip side have no running backs right now. And their running back dropped the ball at the 1 yard line as well in that game. So it's just crazy, kind of the amount of bad things that are happening right now in that Cardinals building, and the amount of good things that are happening in the Colts building. I'm just gonna ride that momentum. I think the Colts are honestly like pretty stable now to win that division, just with the way they've looked so far, and now the fact that they're being able to run the ball is going to be huge for them. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the Colts -6.5 in this one.
I'm going to no play this one. My lean is on the +10, buying it up for the Cardinals. But I do love the Colts and what they've been able to do. I can't really bet +10 for a Cardinals team that's been Cheeks, blew a 20-point lead that should have been higher.
Yeah.
Obviously, DeMarcado had the 72-yard rush. Pretty much, I think it was his second carry of the game, because after saying he was the starter, they gave every carry to Michael Carter all game. Another weird thing that happened this week. And then he fumbles it at the 1.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the crazy play at the end, and the Titans walk it off, which was great. Love to see it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I can't bet for the Cardinals right now without any running backs. Marv's been balling, Trey's due. But I can't see the Cardinals stopping the Colts unless the Colts decide to not run it also and pull a James Cook, Kyron, Saquon from last week, which I could see, in which case Daniel Jones could be prone to throwing interceptions, which is, I think, the only way the Cardinals can stay in the game. So I'm just going to stay away from it this time.
Yeah, fair enough. Next, we got the Seahawks and the Jags. This game is also one of those games that's like, damn, this will be a fun game to watch. The Jags are 4-1 now, just beat the Chiefs. Trevor Lawrence stumbling, bumbling, and rumbling into the end zone. It was pretty crazy. Then you got the Seahawks, who were in an absolute shootout with the Bucs at home last week. So yeah, this game is honestly a head scratcher for me. I think these are two really good teams that both kind of flew under the radar to the start of the season. I just don't, for some reason, I just don't see the Seahawks losing 2 in a row. I think Darnold's got a pretty solid foothold of that offense now. And the Seahawks defense has, even though they gave up a ton to Baker last week, they have been pretty good. So I'm going to rely on that defense to step up a little bit in this game on the road in Jacksonville. And I think Darnold will be able to lead them just fine against this defense. So I'm going to stick with the Seahawks on the money line.
Yeah, interesting game in this one. I also am on the Seahawks to get it done. I just feel like their defense has been incredible until this week against the Bucs. They hadn't given up 20. They were only averaging 16.8 against them, and then obviously just had 38 dropped on them by Baker. Turnover there at the end to give them the walk-off win. But the Seahawks have looked pretty solid offensively, which I don't really know how. I think it's Torrey Horton stepped up a little bit out of Colorado State. Barner keeps finding his way into the end zone. And then JSN's been as consistent as it gets. Meanwhile, the run game's kind of been questionable with Charbonnet and Kenneth still splitting carries. So they're finding a way, and it's mostly led by the defense. The defense isn't going to give up many rushing yards to ETN, I don't believe, just because they have been solid up front. And so that means Trevor's going to have to pass it, which he hasn't really been asked to do this year. And I think that's why they keep coming away with wins, because Brian Thomas Jr. has been real quiet this year. Travis Hunter hasn't been great. And then Brenton Strange, their starting tight end, is now out. So I do like the Seahawks this week. Don't mind buying it to +3 because I know it started at they were 1.5 point dogs, but now they're favored I think by one. So I like them on the money line, and I also think that buying it to +3 is a safe play. Uh, that should be an interesting game for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely intrigued
Long
by that
flight,
one. Yeah, for
long flight.
sure. For sure, especially after a tough home loss. So we'll see how they cope. And then we got the Titans and the Raiders, battle of the dumpsters in the NFL so far. Um, yeah, I'm just going back and forth, just because Gino has been absolutely awful this year. And Cam Ward just got his first win, so excuse me. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit sick, just so everybody knows. Kind of dealing with some congestion issues. But yeah, no, I have a feeling the Raiders are going to be able to right the ship a little bit this week. I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes that the Cardinals did the prior week. I have a little bit more trust in the fact that their coaching should be able to kind of keep them around in this game. And I don't know how great or how much I trust their defense. Um, but I think it's going to be enough to keep Cam Ward at bay. And if Gino can have any sort of decent game, they should be able to win this game at home. But honestly, I think I'm actually just going to stick with a no play on this one because I just keep going back and forth, and I think it just makes more sense to just no play it. But yeah, if I had to pick one to lean on, I'd probably pick on the Raiders money line.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this game's terrible. I don't think you could pay me to watch this game. I would probably not watch it either way. Yeah, I think Brock Bowers is still out, and then the Titans have had a very good rush defense, and the Raiders have not been able to run it outside of one game. So if you limit Janty and you have no Brock Bowers, not sure what offense is left there for the Raiders. Obviously, we just saw him drop 6 against the Colts, and Geno's had 9 picks through 5 games. So I definitely don't trust that. But we also watched the Titans be 0-4, probably averaging 12 a game. I haven't actually looked at the numbers, but probably 12 or less. And then they were getting blown out until the fourth quarter when it fell apart. So Titans have looked terrible offensively also. But I am going to take a play. I'm going to buy the Titans from 4.5 to 7 and take it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair pick there. Then next we got the 49ers and the Buccaneers. Another game that I actually kind of love. I don't think we'll have Brock Purdy back again this week. And Baker's been absolutely balling even without Mike Evans. They did get Godwin back. I don't think it's really mattered because he's got Ibuka. And Ibuka has just been incredible to watch. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. If you don't take this guy for Offensive Rookie of the Year, you are crazy. Um, the numbers he's putting up are just kind of outlandishly incredible. Like, it's just kind of shocking. I think he's like one of the top 3 fantasy scorers right now in all of the NFL as well, which is just nuts. Um, and yeah, I think Baker's playing at an MVP level. If they keep winning, I wouldn't doubt him being in the MVP conversation. And I absolutely love to see that. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I think that he chose the right team, and the Bucks welcomed him home, and now he's got a solid stronghold on this offense and knows how to run it, knows the weapons that he has. I'm not sure if Bucky will be back, but it didn't really matter against the Seahawks last week. But if Bucky's back, I love him even more. But still, I'm just going to take the Buccaneers on the money line. I think the Niners are due for a loss here. They're sitting at 4-1. They are also dealing with a lot of injuries, and they've been kind of managing through it. And I think that coaching's been a huge deal. Coaching and not turning the ball over has been massive for the Niners, getting to 4-1 so far. And I just don't see a world where the Buccaneers turn the ball over too much in this game to lose it. So I'm just going to stick with them on the money line.
Another one that I'd rather no play, but I'm going to give out the Bucks money line as well. Scares me. They've lost 4 straight against the Niners. Pretty much all one-score games between these two teams, right in that low 20s range.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Probably a 24-17 game coming. Mac Jones is still going to play. He's undefeated. Like I said a few weeks back, he might take Brock's job if Brock doesn't hurry back. And now he's 3-0 doing it. A couple game-winning drives.
Did
And
get banged up quite a bit last week against
he
the
got
Rams.
he got banged up a lot, which is why I'm really going with the Bucks at home to get it done this time. Not sure, but I believe Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings are back. Still believe Kittle's out. But at least the Niners are starting to get some health there on the offensive side, weapons wise. But yeah, with how bad Mac looks physically, I don't know if he's going to have 11 bananas this game to keep him going, but we'll see. Uh, I am worried though because the I'm going to take the money line rather than the -3 because the Bucks have won all four of their four wins by less than three. All four clutch comeback wins at the end of the game. So it's not like they've been dominating games in the least. And like you said, Bucky's out, um, and Mike Evans is out. So I'm waiting to see the Mark Andrews repairing with Bucky like they played together in Oklahoma. I'm waiting for that trade to happen now that Mark Andrews is up for grabs. Yeah, interesting game. I'd love to watch this one. I am going to take the Bucks though.
Yeah, right on. Then last few games here, we got the Bengals and the Packers. Joe Flacco getting traded over to the Bengals, and they're 13.5 or 14.5 point dogs here against the Packers. Um, well, it's kind of crazy to me because the Bengals picked up Flacco just in time to play the Packers, and actually Flacco managed to beat the Packers earlier this year with the Browns, which was a bit of a shock. Um, I just don't think he's going to be able to replicate it here, but 14.5 is such a crazy line. I'll probably just end up buying it down to 9.5 and taking the Packers here. I just think complete as a team, I just don't see a way that the Bengals stop this offense. And the Packers defense has been a lot better this year, so I think that they're going to be able to hold up. And the Bengals O-line is absolutely terrible, so if Flacco, like Jake Browning and Joe Burrow, is in the shotgun 85% of the time, I think he's going to be in for a wild run. Luckily, he has two of the top paid wide receivers in football in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, so if he can manage to get the ball to them, they'll probably be able to make plays. And that's really what scares me the most about that 14.5 point line is those two guys can make plays. And the Packers every now and then do have a game where it seems like they kind of slip up. But after that tie against the Cowboys, I think they're due for another win. And no better time to do it than against this Bengals team that's really beat up and the O-line is terrible. So I'm going to stick with the Packers -9.5.
Yeah, I love that play. I'm gonna take them at -14 even. I honestly want to buy it to -30. I feel like they're gonna smack them. Uh, yes, Flacco got the win. The reason they got the win, which I was on by the way, if you listened, was because you stopped the run.
Yeah.
And Josh Jacobs had 16 for 30, and if you stop the Packers game, then that requires an aerial attack. And the receivers are all decent, but they're nothing special. Uh, this Bengals defense isn't going to be able to stop anything. Josh Jacobs is going to get in the end zone once, maybe twice. You might see Dobbs in there again. And then Jaden Reed, I believe, is coming back soon. I don't think quite yet. But I could see a 40 piece from the Packers. And I don't think the Bengals are going to be able to move the ball nearly at all outside of potentially a bomb to Jamar or something. Um, that's the only way to really beat the Packers is to have a quick attack and a deep ball that kind of opens up the game. And I don't see that happening until later on in the game. So I could feel like a 41-10 or 41-7 or something like so. I like the 14 in this game.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm feeling like a 40-17, maybe 42-17, even if they already give a long ball up to Jamar Chase for 80 and a touchdown. I just don't see it mattering. So we'll see how it plays out. Then we got the Lions and the Chiefs. Lions are 2.5 point dogs going into Kansas City, which I think is pretty crazy considering the way they've played the last few weeks. Their defense is rolling. Their offense is also rolling. Feels like they kind of figured out the issues they had in the first week against the Packers, and they've looked really good ever since. I do think this game puts a little bit of question mark on those two running backs just because the Chiefs' running defense has been a lot better. Um, but then last week, I saw plays where Chris Jones wasn't even doing anything on the ball against the Jags. So it's like if Chris Jones is disinterested, like where do you have this Chiefs team? I mean, if the Lions put up 14 in the first 8 minutes, like are they just going to give up? So it just kind of scares me, and the fact that the Chiefs are favorites makes me like the Lions even more. So I'm going to stick with the Lions +3.5 in this one.
I'm going to buy the Lions up to 7 and take it at that. I know there's not that much value in it, but I like that play. It just seems like a weird line. It makes sense. The Chiefs being at home would be favored by 3, and they're not even favored by 3. It's 2.5. So the sports book's basically saying we expect the Lions to barely win, which is kind of what I would expect. But I think if you buy it to 7, then you should be safe either way. I kind of feel like the Lions should dominate based off of what we've seen this year. But the Chiefs defense can, show up at random times. And if you have an interested Chris Jones and Nick Bolton who makes plays as we saw on the goal line against the Jags, then they should be able to keep it interesting. But I really think the Lions are going to win this game. So I'll buy it to 7, and I might take the money line with it as well.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting if the Lions win this game. The Chiefs drop to 2-4, which would be just kind of shocking to be honest. Especially now that they have Xavier Worthy back too. It just doesn't seem like he's making all that much of a difference for them. So yeah, I'm very interested to see kind of where this game lands for both teams.
2-4 will be interesting with
Yeah.
Rashee Rice coming back after his 6-game suspension. Their number one wide receiver is going to be a big impact for them, but I think they need to get more out of the run game. Kareem Hunt's been great in the red zone, punching it in, but they don't have much of a run game at all outside of at the 5-yard line. So I would love a Kamara trade for them, or Chargers who just lost both their running backs. Commanders who lost, Eckler, but I think they're going to give Bill a shot. So there's some teams out there that could use him rather than letting him waste away on the Saints. And the Chiefs, I think, should make a move for him.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be strong. And it is interesting to see that Pacheco. I feel like he's just been a lot stronger catching the ball out of the backfield rather than running it. And I don't know if that's due to an O-line thing or just spacing out the field so he can make people miss. But yeah, it feels like he's been a lot better catching the ball out of the backfield rather than just straight runs. So we'll kind of see how that plays out for this Chiefs team. Then we got the Bills and the Falcons. Bills finally obviously lost their first game this last week against the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. It was an incredible game to watch. Bills are just constantly in game of the years. They're in super close games. This time they just ended up on the wrong side of the coin. And yeah, I mean, I've talked about this over the last few weeks, is that this Bills defense has its moments where it's just like, I don't know if I trust that defense. And I know they've had a few players out that they should be getting back or may have gotten back already. But yeah, they just are really shaky on defense. And, if Bijan's able to run the ball here, the Falcons could have a decent chance. Now, with that being said, I do think the Bills are going to be able to bounce back in this game. I'm going to take the -2.5 here against the Falcons. I just think that Penix isn't going to be as comfortable as a lot of people would expect, and I think Josh Allen's going to be able to do Josh Allen things in this game. I don't think they're going to turn the ball over nearly as much. I don't think the Falcons' defense is really something to write home about, or at least not nearly as good as the Patriots' defense. They're definitely a lot better than last year, but I just don't think they're in that upper echelon of defenses yet. So yeah, I feel comfortable taking the Bills -2.5 in this game.
I love the Falcons at heart. Don't really know why. So I'm going to take it at +7. I think it's 4.5 right now. Kind of like the 4.5. I feel like if they lose, it'll be by 4. I feel like they'll have a lead. Josh Allen might go get a win at the end, in which case they could lose by 3. So I feel like kind of like it. Also feel like because of what we've seen from the Bills defense, they did get Matt Milano back, but still no Ed Oliver. But they were a little bit better against the Patriots, but obviously lost that game. The offense is going to need to bounce back. But I think the Falcons' front is slowly improving with the young guys getting more time. And then, their offense is just so solid all the way around. They can run it with Bijan. He can catch it. Algier's been pretty solid for him as a 1-2 punch. And then Drake London. You got Ray has been decent, and Mooney's always a deep threat, as well as Kyle Pitts has been having a great year so far for himself. So I think this could be a high-scoring game where it could be going back and forth. And so even over 49, I like that play a lot. Even buying it to like a 46.5 could be fun. But I am going to take that over, as well as taking the Falcons at +7.
Yeah, right on. Hopefully we'll land somewhere in between there. Then we got the Bears and Commanders. Yeah, another game that I'm kind of back and forth on, to be honest. The Commanders had a nice win against the Chargers last week. Jaden came back and looked pretty good. And the Bears have looked a lot better the last few weeks. I don't know if they were on a bye last week. For some reason, I just can't remember that game. But the week before and the last couple weeks before that, they looked really good. Feels like Caleb's starting to finally find a rhythm with that team, and I think Ben Johnson's paying huge dividends as being the head coach of that team. So yeah, I think shockingly the Bears are definitely on the rise, which I would not have told you at the beginning of the year. I think I had them under 6 wins for this year, so I think there's a good chance they end up covering that. Um, yeah, in this game, I kind of want to no play it, but I'm just gonna say screw it and take the Commanders -2.5 here at home. I think the Commanders are the better team here, and as long as their defense performs and generates a couple turnovers, I just think this is gonna be a battle of the turnovers in this game, and I think the Bears are gonna turn it over more. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with my heart here and take Jaden Daniels and the Commanders.
Yeah, I think that's the right play for this game. They won last year off the walk-off touchdown
That's
bomb
right.
after getting not necessarily annihilated, but they scored I think 10 or 11 points until that Hail Mary at the end. It was 15-18 final, I think, which was crazy, and that's kind of what turned around their season. Also, what I'm thinking though is Ben Johnson is probably been dwelling on this game after getting smacked by the Commanders in the postseason. And the Lions were, I think, 10 or 14-point favorites in that game.
Yeah.
And so Ben Johnson needs to get some revenge. Caleb Williams needs to get some revenge. And DeAndre Swift went for 148 and a score against the Commanders last year. So if they can run the ball well, Rome's been looking very good under Ben Johnson's new scheme. They're coming off a long rest, so that everybody should be pretty healthy. So I'm going to take the Bears +3. But I think the smart play in this one's the Commanders, so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, right on. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the NFL this week. Looking forward to week 6. It should be another fun week of games. Um, Definitely have a few stinkers in there, so I'll probably avoid those ones. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know if you want to hear anything else, any additional content that we should be putting out. Definitely be paying attention to the Instagrams. Zach's always got plays and stories going on there that we both like. And for the most part, I mean, I'd say on the Instagram we're probably hitting that 90% clip. It feels like almost everything that goes on there ends up hitting. And I know a lot of people would have been enjoying it, making a little bit of money off it. So yeah, be sure to check out the It's Too Easy podcast on Instagram. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week for week 7. Peace.